Oh, let me tell you something. Busting makes me feel good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Blockbusting, the podcast where we love to hate the movies. I'm your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, my good friend, long time coming, Hormoz Rashidi. Keep it going for Hormoz, everybody. Let's have another one for Hormoz Rashidi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dude, I'm so happy to finally have you on.
Thank you for having me.
I was talking about, I remember when I first came up with the idea for this podcast a while back, almost 2 years ago now, and I was like, I gotta have Hormoz on, and you've been on my list for a while. And finally,
You and the U.S. government have been on your guys' lists.
and guess what? You're off mine, so government's coming for you next, buddy.
Yeah.
Get ready for ICE to come pounding down your
I
door.
love Trump, so I love Trump.
Then you're going to be good.
I'm going to be fine. I love Trump. I think he's doing a great job.
You probably really, I'm surprised if you love Trump that you love this movie, that you don't love this movie, which is Crash.
I mean,
Crash.
it's a good movie. It's a pretty good movie. It's fun. It's fun. It shouldn't have won the Best Picture. It should not have won Best Picture.
Definitely true. It should not have won Best Picture.
Yeah. Who did it beat, too? Let's look that up.
It beat Brokeback Mountain.
Okay, I never saw that.
It beat-
I tried to watch it. It was boring. I'm into gay shit too. I'm down to watch gay people hook up. You know, like I've never watched gay people.
That's why
hook
I have
up.
a Grindr
But-
account,
but yeah.
just to go follow people around.
Yeah, I just like watching gay. It's not gay to watch people be gay.
Nah.
No, but I tried to watch Brokeback Mountain because I was like, all right, maybe it's a great movie, and you know, a great love story about two men is still a great love story. But that shit was boring as fuck.
We had beat Brokeback Mountain, which I've never seen. I haven't seen any of the movies that it beat. Also,
Okay.
by the way, Brokeback Mountain, Capote,
I didn't see that.
Good Night and Good Luck,
I saw that. That was pretty good.
and Munich.
Oh, Munich should have won. Munich is amazing. Munich, do you know what Munich's about?
I don't. Is it a World War II movie?
The Palestinians killed a bunch of Israeli athletes at the Olympics, and then Munich is about the Israeli special forces going around the world and assassinating all of the Palestinians responsible for killing them.
Oh wow!
It's a Steven Spielberg movie. It should have destroyed Crash.
Didn't George Clooney win an Oscar for that?
George Clooney was in Good Night and Good Luck. I don't know if he won an Oscar.
He was in Munich too, I think.
Was he?
We're gonna look up this awards ceremony right
What's his
now.
name? David Bana was in Munich.
Eric Bana.
Eric Bana. David Banner was in.
David Banner. Yeah, Brokeback Mountain got 8 nominations. Crash, Good Night and Good Luck, and Memoirs of a Geisha each
Never
got
saw
6
that one.
nominations. And George Clooney. Oh, he won it for Syriana.
Syriana. Yeah, that was pretty good.
I can see why I mixed up because
Yeah.
Syriana, I'm guessing, is based around some sort of Middle
Eastern stuff, too.
and Palestine and
Yeah.
Israel also
Munich
Middle
is
Eastern.
dope. Also, there's like a bunch of reasons why. I mean, Crash. We everybody can agree, looking back, that Crash shouldn't have won Best Picture, right?
Yes, 100%.
But one thing, background on Crash too, is the guy who made Crash. I forget his name.
Paul Haggis.
Paul Haggis. I saw an interview with him where they're talking about that movie, and it turns out he had just been carjacked by a black guy,
Right.
and then he went and wrote this script about like, oh, I wonder what the black guy's real life is like and stuff, and he wrote Crash.
Right.
So it's like a victim of violence is equating all people of that race who did the act on him,
Right.
and he's just playing up stereotypes about, you know,
Well,
racial
that's
shit.
basically the basic
Yeah.
premise of the whole movie is
So
hey, did you guys know that everyone's racist?
Yeah.
Everybody's racist.
Everybody's racist, and those stereotypes that people say aren't true are fucking true.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's to the point where
Opening scene, too.
opening scene, crazy racism where they're just
Crazy
like where there's an Asian lady switching around that's saying I pressed the Blake, and then the
that
lady.
part's true though. Asians are the worst drivers.
And then the other lady who Don Cheadle's like fucking, but is like, oh god, but this is a bad look, and she's just yelling at her about Blake's. And also there's
what about the part with Ludacris?
I was just gonna say Ludacris and Lawrence Tate, and they're both just like. And they're just like super like, man, it's racist for people to walk across the street. But we got guns. And then they carjack Brendan Fraser and Sandra Bullock.
Yeah,
who
that
are
was
also racist towards all the Mexican
because
people
he like
in their
held
life.
her purse and like moved away. Yeah.
Yep.
My favorite line from that part was when like Lawrence Tate and Ludacris are talking about how it's racist that Sandra Bullock like moved away towards her boyfriend and stuff and was like afraid of them. He's like, why should they be afraid of us? We look like two UCLA students. And then he's like, why shouldn't we be afraid of them? We're surrounded by them. And he's like, oh yeah, because we got guns.
And then they pull out their guns.
Oh wow, it looked like it was about to be this woke movie with the dialogue about like, why are they judging us even though we're just students? And then it's like, no, we're gangsters.
That's why
that won the best picture.
That's the thing about this movie that blows my mind. And this is 2004. It's
not
crazy that this movie is like, this movie all happens and it's an ensemble piece and it's got a bunch of really good actors in it.
Really
it's got
good
Don
actors,
Cheadle, Matt Dillon, Brendan Fraser, Sandra Bullock, Terrence Howard, Ludacris.
Even that Middle Eastern guy who plays the Iranian guy kills it.
Michael Pena's in this movie.
Michael Pena's great. I love Michael Pena. He's so good in everything.
He's amazing in this movie. What's
he's
the
even
name
funny
of
in this too. And everything he does, he brings like a natural humor.
They don't list. This kind of sucks. They don't list the Middle Eastern guy as an actual member of the main cast on the Wikipedia page.
Well, that's because
they list him as the supporting
only list
cast.
human beings and not Iranian people.
Sean Toub. Sean Toub.
Supporting cast? That's ridiculous. He was a major actor in that.
He's got a lot. He's a supporting cast. He's not a real person.
That's crazy.
There's a lot of stuff going on in this movie that is highly. It's like in learning that a white guy wrote this movie.
Yeah,
is basically like, okay, so this is basically like his version of racist fan fiction.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you feel? When did you see this movie for the first time?
I think I saw it either right when it was in theaters or right when it came out on DVD. I saw it in 2004.
Okay.
And I remember I loved it at first because it's super fun. You know, like the fact that they misdirect you into thinking they're UCLA students and then they carjack this guy. It's like, oh, it's surprising.
Right.
But then looking back on like a second viewing, I remember the second time I saw it, I remember thinking, this movie's so stupid.
Right.
Like it doesn't make any sense, too.
Yeah.
There's so many holes in the plot.
It really pulls the wool over your eyes the first time. Because I remember watching it in high school. This was one of the first R-rated movies I was allowed to see.
Really? You weren't allowed to see R-rated as a kid?
My parents were very adamant against me seeing R-rated movies. And I remember when I finally got to turning like 14, 15, I was like, listen, guys, please, can I just, like, I'm missing out on so much stuff. Can I please just watch R-rated movies like at home? And my parents were like, well, we have to approve it first and then we'll let you watch it. And they watched, the first one I was allowed to watch was Blazing Saddles. And then sometime after that, I was allowed to watch Crash. And I watched it, and I was like 15, and I was like, oh, this movie, I can see why this movie's going to win Best Picture. This movie's great. And then all of a sudden it won, and I was like validated, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, I feel like an adult watching this movie. And then I watched it again to prep for this podcast, and I was like, oh, this movie's really fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's terrible.
This movie, the sequence I think it's either right after or right before, because all the most racist stuff kind of happens at the top of the movie just to sort of set you in the world of like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of racist shit going on the entire time.
Like Matt Dillon. Like
Matt Dillon groping
Terrence
Andy
Howard,
Newton, and Ryan Phillippe and Terrence Howard both just being like, ugh, but they're not doing anything about it. There's the scene.
I think that's why Reese left him. Because his performance was too good.
Yeah.
in that. She's like, oh, that's not acting.
Right.
You really felt.
You really felt.
You really felt for it.
But there's also the scene where our non-human Middle Eastern guy is at the gun shop, and the guy who's selling him the gun basically just starts making a bunch of 9/11 references, and then is like yelling at him and calling him Saddam and being like, "You flew a plane into I'm gonna fly a plane into your mud huts," and I'm just like, "Oh no, you wrote those words down." He probably wrote down like 5 different iterations of that scene before he landed on, yeah, he's gonna call them mud huts.
Mud huts. Fuck, man, and that's the peak of the movie right there. That's the best.
It's real
part.
early. It starts off and then it just goes down.
Yeah. Well, you have to have the characters at least grow a little bit, like Matt Dillon's character. By the end, he's still a hero, even though he's a racist, pussy grabbing groper at the beginning. Right. He's also a hero. Like, it's still well written. There's still a character arc. It's like still professionally made by like obviously a brilliant writer. Like the writer is also. But the thing I think is crazy is he's an actual victim by a black man of getting carjacked, which put him in this mindset of just this scared person who's just lashing out. And that's what we got as Crash.
Well, see, here's the thing.
The screams of a victim.
So it is the screams of a victim. But the thing is, the carjacking happened in 1991.
Oh, really? So it was way
before. So unless he wrote that soon after, and then just didn't look at it for years. Because he won the Oscar for Best Picture the year before as well.
Oh, yeah? What else? What did he...
He won the Oscar for $1 Million Baby.
Really?
Because he wrote $1 Million Baby and produced it. And he won the screenplay and Best Picture Oscars for those as well. So unless this is a script that he'd written years ago and all of a sudden was finally able to make... If you're not...
He'd been thinking about it.
He'd been thinking about it. And if this is the movie that comes out after years of thought...
Yeah.
Then you got to fucking... You got a lot of examining you have to do about the way you still view race. If this is a movie that he wrote and didn't change, like, I get that. If this is pure reactionary to that incident, I get why the movie kind of plays out the way it does. But if you're writing this years after and being like, man, wouldn't it be cool if the racist people also had problems?
which is what the movie is.
That's what the movie is.
Hey, even racists have problems.
Look, racists have problems, and also everyone's a racist.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey, what are we supposed to do if all of us are racist? None of us are racist.
Is it racist to say Asians are terrible drivers?
I think so.
Okay. But what if it's true? What if it turns out that all Asians are terrible drivers?
Well, that's what that's what the premise of the movie is. The only time people have car crashes in the movie,
thieves and gangsters.
But that's what because Don Cheadle's
people are bad at driving.
Don Cheadle's a black guy who's like not a thief, but also Don Cheadle has to compromise his values because a white guy is like, look. If you don't compromise your values, then like, what are you gonna do? And basically, all of the people in this movie are like, they're trying to play off racism as being woke, almost. Yeah, that's kind of how it comes off.
Yeah,
because there's the scene where Ryan Phillippe goes to out and report his Matt Dillon. To Keith David. Who, by the way, I mean, Keith David's lines in this movie are garbage, but his perfect casting choice of having Keith David.
Who's Keith David? What does he look like?
Keith David is he's just, let me pull up a picture of him. Keith David's, one of these classic, like, character actors who's been in a ton of movies. Keith David looks like this. You've definitely,
yeah. I've seen him. Yeah.
Keith David... He's Juilliard trained. He's been in a ton of movies. He's won awards. He's done all kinds of cool stuff. But also, he spends a whole scene being like, Hey, listen, I'm a black guy who rose within the ranks of a racist organization, and I'm not going to jeopardize that by outing a white guy who I trained as a racist. So what are you going to do you're going to really put a black man down by making me report that? How dare you? So it's like weaponized wokeness in a way that like doesn't really play out quite. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just weird. This movie's so weird to watch because there is one sequence and one storyline because it's an ensemble story, and there's one subset of this movie that I actually really did like, which is Michael Pena and his daughter.
Yeah, I loved it.
I think that if there was more of that and less of literally every other part of this movie, I would have liked it.
If it was just about a Hispanic dad struggling to provide for his family.
Right. Because the scene where he is like, it's the invisibility cloak that's going to protect you. And I remember watching that as a kid. I was a teenager, but I was a kid. I remember watching that and seeing the scene where it's like the daughter's you think the daughter's going to get shot, and then it turns out there's blanks in the gun.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's a really good narrative device. Like, you can tell that an actual good writer is somewhere buried in this movie because of sequences like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's set up really beautifully with the story between the daughter and the father, and then it plays out, and then the little bits and bobs come out and play out very nicely to have that sequence happen.
Yeah.
I think that sequence is effective, and I know we were talking about it before. You don't like that.
Well, I mean, I think it is very effective.
Right.
But see, my big problem with that whole part of the movie is the Iranian guy didn't speak English. That was a key dynamic to the movie is he doesn't speak English, so he doesn't understand when Pena is saying, door's too broken, I can't fix it today. And he's like, no, you fix. He didn't understand that they had a language barrier.
Right.
So he's freaking out about the door not being fixed because of a language barrier. Then when he shoots the blank and thinks he's killed the kid, but really it was a blank and he didn't kill him and everything was fine.
Right.
He tells his daughter, she is my ferishte. She is my guardian angel. And I'm like, this dude who doesn't know broke door knows guardian angel in English? Like, that's fucking ridiculous. That's just bad writing. All they needed was like 2 little lines of subtitles and have the guy just say it in Farsi. And then it would have like rang true.
Right. I mean, they had subtitles during a lot of parts of the movie too.
A lot of it until the part where he says, she is my guardian angel. It's like, dude, that's stupid. Like,
there's a lot of this movie that really doesn't. It just makes it. There's parts where it's like it could make sense, but it really all falls like, okay, hey, Matt Dillon having a speech where he's like racist to the lady at the hospice or whatever, the aftercare center.
Yeah.
He's racist to her in the scene, and then is like, but my dad helped a bunch of you people.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what are you going for?
Yeah.
And then the scene where Ludacris, who's been like this, who's also like a woke criminal who's also playing into all of the stereotypes about black people, has to save a bunch of human trafficked people from a van.
Yeah, the Asians. I forgot all about them.
And he calls them Chinamen, and the guys, and Lawrence Tate is like, no, they're Cambodians or something. It's crazy, dude. This movie is like, it's like Paul Haggis, when he wrote this movie, he probably wrote half of it right after the carjacking happened.
Yeah.
And was very angry and upset. And also the other half, and he edited it when he was like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be saying these kinds of things. Maybe I shouldn't do this kind of stuff. You know, maybe I shouldn't have Sandra Bullock yell at a Mexican guy overtly. Let's have her yell at her white husband in the hallway about Mexican people, so that way it's a little bit removed.
Yeah.
You know, it's like he heard the parts that are not quite. It's like the parts that are not as effective for the whatever message he's trying to convey, which I don't know what the message of this movie ultimately is.
I think you nailed it earlier. The message is everybody's racist. And stereotypes, while they might not be politically correct, they're usually true.
Right.
I feel like that's the message. And it is kind of cloaked in a feeling of when you're woke, you realize stereotypes are true. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know. I do think a lot of times stereotypes are true.
Well, that's why
You know?
stereotypes
Yeah,
exist.
I think a lot of times they're true.
Stereotypes exist
to
for
play
a
them
reason.
up and make it seem like they're like that's the thing is like the whole beginning scene with the two with Lorenz Tate and Ludacris is like such an encapsulation of the whole movie because it's like it sets you up to be like, man, we should be more woke like these two guys,
Right.
who are victims of being blamed for violence that they don't perpetuate. And then, right when they set you up for that, they go, just kidding, we're violent.
Right.
Give me your blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, like, I guess stereotypes are often true, but does this one where these two guys are super well-spoken, talking about being victims, and then they flip, I don't know. It just seemed like a cheap device.
It's a cheap. Well, there's cheap devices throughout the entire movie where it's like one of the ones that really stands out now that we're talking about it more is Ryan Phillippe with Lawrence Tate in the car, and they get into the argument after Ryan Phillippe has spent the whole movie being like, I denounce racist cops and I will not engage in racist behavior, to the point where he's like saving Terrence Howard, who's acting like a fucking lunatic.
Right, but he just watched his wife get groped by a cop, so he's
and
he's
it's
freaking
totally
out, yeah.
justified. And Ryan Phillippe is trying to save him from getting shot by the cops and from the racism inherent to the LAPD. And you're like, cool, this is a good scene. Ryan Phillippe is doing the right thing. Good job, Ryan Phillippe. And then Ryan Phillippe shoots Lawrence Tate because he thinks he's going to get shot, and then he pulls it out and turns out he's holding a statue of a saint. And then he dumps his body off on the side of the road, and also it's Don Cheadle's brother. Oh, fuck. Oh, no.
Everything's connected.
Everyone's racist when you push them hard enough. Turns out if you think you're going to get shot, you're a racist.
Yeah.
And that's like, there's a part of the movie that's like, I don't know, it's kind of like it's almost played for laughs at some of the times when it shouldn't be played for laughs. And that makes the parts where it really shouldn't be played for laughs, where it's obviously played as a dramatic device like that scene.
Yeah.
It gives it kind of a tonal dissonance.
Yeah.
Like that sequence, I feel like would be more impactful if you didn't have Ludacris and Lawrence Tate wisecracking at the very beginning of the movie.
If they were actual good guys,
right,
you'd feel more sympathy for him when he's, when the cop's thinking he's a bad guy.
If you didn't have Don Cheadle in a hotel room fucking a Hispanic woman and being like, you're Mexican, right? And she's like, I'm Honduran and Puerto Rican. And he's like, well, that's close enough. If you didn't have scenes like that, then I would care about when his brother gets shot by a racist white guy.
Yeah.
But I don't. And that's, I think, the big problem with this movie.
So funny. It's like, in this movie, it was like all black people are one monolith, all Latino people are one monolith, all Middle Eastern people are one monolith, all Asians are one monolith. Mm-hmm.
The craziest thing to me about this movie is that when it came out, everybody, for the most part, thought it was fantastic. Roger Ebert famously said it was the #1 movie of the year. And Roger Ebert, I usually go along with a lot of what he says for his reviews. But there's a lot of parts of this one that I'm just like, Roger, you're supposed to be smarter than this. It's rated by CinemaScore as an A-, which is very difficult to get for people coming out and being like, that was really, really good. That was really almost perfect. The critical consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, which, by the way, it has a 74, so it's still like good, but not great on Rotten Tomatoes. A raw and unsettling morality piece on the modern angst and urban disconnect, Crash examines the dangers of bigotry and xenophobia in the lives of interconnected Angelinos, which I think sums up the movie pretty well. But then in retrospect, a lot of people have been... Wikipedia really softens the blow here by saying some later reviews of Crash have been less favorable. Cultural critic Ta-Nehisi Coates criticized the film as shallow and unthinking, naming Crash the worst film of the decade.
I wouldn't go that far, but I do think it's shallow and unthinking.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he nails it right there. It's like it's shallow. It's like just an immediate impulse of the worst racial interactions. It could have used a few, like it would have been nice, and they did this a little bit with the police force thing that we talked about. But it could have used some of the white, maybe Sandra Bullock also bitching about it to one of her black friends who agrees with her, just to show that it's not all white people and black people, really more it's class.
Right.
They could have showed the class divides a little bit better instead of the racial divides.
That's the thing. I think this movie, I mean, it's hard to think of ways that this movie could have been improved other than make it feel like you actually there's got to be ways to actually care about these characters more. Yeah. Because this is the thing in Ta-Nehisi Coates' review that I really, really identify with, is that, with that being said, I don't think there's a single human being in Crash. Instead, you have arguments and propaganda violently bumping into each other, impressed with their own quirkiness. Paul Haggis wrote this movie, and it feels like it's all just like,
don't you think
it's
Peña's
stereotypes,
character
right?
feels very human though?
Whose character?
Peña and his daughter though.
Yeah,
I feel like they feel very human and sweet.
Peña's character, I think, is the closest to human that we get. Yeah. That's why I want to see their storyline expanded to the feature. Everybody else, it's really just like Paul Haggis is like, all right, what would be funny to have a black guy say? Yeah. About black people stereotypes. What would be funny to have somebody? What's something that a white person can't say about Asians, but a Mexican person can? Huh, interesting. Tap, 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 tap. I'm going to win an Oscar for this. Yeah. But there's no real human parts to this movie other than Michael Peña. Even Ryan Phillippe isn't really a human, and he's the closest to like a sympathetic character that
when
we
the Middle
get.
Eastern guy is like freaking out that he almost killed the little girl and stuff. But it's just like, he's also just such a, I don't know. I feel like that actor's pretty good, but just the writing for him was so garbage.
I feel like if they had shifted the perspective to like one character removed in each of these storylines, a lot of it would have been improved. Like, instead of focusing so much on the dad in the Middle Eastern family, focus on the daughter. The daughter seems to be the one who's like
really living in both worlds.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And she's got her shit together. She's the one who probably has a harder time figuring out how to help her family, who are clearly like first generation immigrants who speak broken English, and they don't have a full grasp still on like how to live life in Los Angeles and in modern America. Let's see what let's have the daughter have a moment. Yeah. Let's have more of the stuff that's them showing their humanity instead of just like, oh, this is how we're going to make them identify with the racist guy. Let's show him helping his dad pee. That's going to get everybody on his side. Yeah. It just doesn't feel earned. No. Are there movies that you think touch on some of the similar themes of Crash but do them in a much better way?
Oh, for sure.
That come to mind?
Do the Right Thing.
I've still never seen Do the Right Thing.
Oh, it's so good. Do the Right Thing is, I think, Spike Lee's best movie. And I loved the new She's Gotta Have It Netflix series because it's shot in Brooklyn and in New York in the similar style as Do the Right Thing, with a lot of breaking the fourth wall, like straight to the camera conversation. But Do the Right Thing is about the hottest day in Brooklyn in, I think, like 1988. And it's just everything's hot. It's summer. People are like starting to get angry with each other and stuff. Like the white cops, the Puerto Ricans, and the black people and the Asians who run like the markets and stuff. Right. It just shows like the little racist interactions and tension, and it's boiling over as the heat gets worse. And I don't want to ruin it because it's like a very, very amazing movie that you should watch as a cinephile. You should watch it, and you'll probably watch it again because it's so good. But Do the Right Thing. I think I also when you were talking about the police chief, when Phillippe's talking to the black police chief and stuff, it made me think of this movie called A Soldier Story. I think.
I haven't heard of that.
I think
one.
It's called A Soldier Story. It was like one of Denzel's first movies. And it was like about it was like the all black.
Oh, Glory?
No. After, I think this came out after Glory, but it was still early days for maybe
Early
it was right
Denzel?
before- yeah.
Okay.
It's called Soldier Story. Immortal Technique uses clips from it for the beginnings of his like songs on Revolutionary Volume 2.
Okay.
But it's like the all black military force, and they have this like light skinned black commander for their force, but he doesn't relate to his all black military guys because they're all, lower educated and they're all darker skinned and everybody looks down on them. And he's worked really hard to build himself up as a commander in the military, even though the other military people don't look at him as equal.
Gotcha.
But he's like stopped talking the way they talk, the way the black people talk. He talks like the white people in order to gain their respect. But then he alienates himself from his own soldiers and stuff. And it just shows the way, in order for this black commander to build himself up in this, white military, he has to distance himself from his black people he commands, which causes a rift between him and his soldiers. And then in the story, somebody kills him. And then it's like, who killed him and why? And there's like a black lawyer who comes in and interviews everybody and trying to come down to or investigator who comes in and interviews everybody and tries to figure out what happened.
Man, that sounds fascinating.
It's a really good movie.
I think,
but it shows like same thing, like that police chief. What's his name?
Keith David.
Keith David is saying, "You're gonna have me ruin everything over, one guy doing one thing." And it's the same thing with this guy. Like in Soldier Story, the military leader is like, you want me to ruin my whole career over,
Right.
Yeah.
It's tricky, man. I really do need to see Do the Right Thing.
So good.
I've heard a lot about
I
it.
own it on DVD if you want to borrow it.
I might have to borrow it. We might have to figure that out after the show's done. But that's the thing. It's like, Black Klansman does it pretty well too.
I haven't seen it yet.
Black Klansman is very good. And
Yeah.
and I love the way that in the movie you obviously have a lot of racial tension that goes on between John David Washington's character and the rest of the police force. And he is coming from a standpoint of he's the first black cop in this town, Colorado Springs, I think. And the rest of the guys on the police force clearly have no fucking clue how to deal with him and his methods. Because he's coming in here as this young black guy who's got a different worldview and a different baseline, and he's a little bit more of a maverick when it comes to the kind of his first investigation that he wants to do is to infiltrate the KKK, which is a bold thing.
Yeah,
and the movie plays with race in a very interesting and entertaining way, while also feeling like the decisions that are made are earned, and so. That's the thing. I feel like Crash...
But that's based on something real, right?
It's based on something real,
story, yeah.
exactly. If Crash... You know what? What if Paul Haggis had just written a movie...
The truth
about what happened?
Yeah.
Instead of being someone who's like using this story as an inspiration to write this weird racist Magnolia that he does. What if you just write the story about... what happens after somebody gets carjacked and they are obviously going to go through some sort of a racist period in their life?
Yeah.
And what happens to pull them out of it? And then they write a screenplay and then they think, you know what?
That's the story.
This is the change. It's going to be like adaptation.
It's he writes Crash, wins Academy Awards. He's like, oh, racism pays. And that's the other movie.
And the movie's going to be called Crashing.
Crashing.
And it's going to star Pete Holmes as Paul Haggis writing this movie. And Lawrence Tate is going to be the carjacker.
Man, also, maybe he saw Menace to Society and saw Lawrence Tate as O-Dog being a crazy gangster and was like, this guy can't play anything but gangsters. Have you seen Menace to Society?
I've never seen Menace to Society.
Ooh, dude.
But Lawrence Tate's not even really a gangster in this movie. He's the one who's like, why you keep acting like this, Ludacris, Chris Bridges? Why are you doing all these things and commenting and setting us back? Oh, but we got guns. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, in Men's Society, he's the most gangster kid you could be. It's so good. Men's Society is like scary gangster shit.
I gotta check that out.
Yeah, there's a few. Have you seen Boys in the Hood?
No, here's the thing. I haven't seen. Never seen that.
Yeah,
never
because your
seen Boys in the
parents
Hood.
didn't let you. Your
Right.
parents didn't let you, yeah.
Because it was full of black people.
And there's titties and violence. There's boobs.
There's
Crazy
there's
violence, yeah.
There's definitely I mean, all that stuff came out when I was in the 90s, and it's all hard R because it's gangster movies. And I mean, even the kinds of movies like what's another one of that of like oh fuck, what am I thinking of? Like even your standard like heist cop movies like
Ronin
Heat
or something, yeah.
and Ronin,
Heat,
yeah, like that stuff. I was not allowed to see.
Really, but there's no nudity.
I wasn't even allowed to
Just
see
violent.
Gladiator.
You've seen it now.
No.
You haven't seen Gladiator,
Nope.
Braveheart?
Nope.
You haven't seen either?
Nope.
Oh my god.
Wasn't allowed to.
But you're allowed to now.
Right, but I haven't. The only R-rated
They're
movie
so
I probably would have been
good.
allowed to see in theaters is Passion of the Christ.
Really?
Yeah,
That was kind of like Braveheart, the sequel. Right?
I think so.
I don't know. I have,
William
I have
Wallace.
not seen that. I have not seen Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, no,
It
I
seems
never
like
saw
a
it.
torture flick.
That's what I gathered. Everybody who I talked to at my church when I was still in church and everybody was talking about going to see it was like, yeah, it's like torture porn, but for God.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. Braveheart, Gladiator. Dude, you got so many movies to watch. You don't have time.
I know. It's because I got no time, and I got all these movies I got to watch.
They're so
That's why I do
good.
the podcast, so I can watch all these movies.
Force you to.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's better that way.
Dude, we should have done Braveheart, or we should have. There's so many
We already
good
did
movies we
Braveheart.
coulda-
Joe Urell.
But you haven't seen it.
I didn't get a chance to watch it before.
Oh, you
I
don't
watched a lot
watch
of clips.
everything that you do.
I usually do. Occasionally, I don't.
Oh, Braveheart.
Braveheart's one of the only ones that I didn't get a chance to watch.
The fact that you rewatched Crash and you haven't seen Gladiator or Braveheart or Do the Right Thing is like a tragedy.
I know.
Like you spent 2 hours rewatching, like
I wasted my time rewatching
Ben Shapiro's
this movie.
Wet Dream.
This really is. Ben Shapiro would love Crash, especially because though he would probably hate that there's no references to Jewish people in this movie.
Is there none?
Nah.
Yeah, that's
Of all the
true.
races that Paul Haggis clearly hates, Jews he's cool with.
Yeah, he's like, if you're funding this movie, you get left out of this movie.
Well, Hormoz, thanks for forcing me to watch this pile of hot garbage again.
Oh, I didn't know that you hadn't seen Gladiator or Braveheart or I would have done Do the Right Thing. And then we could have still talked about Crash.
Yeah.
You know, we could have done the reverse of this. We
The
could have-
Trojan horse of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll still watch Do the Right Thing. I'll borrow it from you and we'll go
Yeah.
from there.
Or you can come over and we'll watch it together. I'm down to rewatch it. It's so good.
That sounds good. I like that plan.
Yeah.
Well, where can the listeners find you if they want to get in touch with you?
On social media, on Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Not Hormones, NOTHORMONES.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to have the social media tag of at Hormones because my name is Hormoz. I got called Hormones, and I figured now in adulthood I'm gonna step into it. I'm gonna own it,
Right.
and I'm gonna be Hormones.
But who has hormones?
A trans therapy doctor.
I think that fits.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Did they call him Hormones his whole life?
Maybe.
Maybe he should be like Dr. Hormones,
Dr. Hormones.
and I can be Hormones.
Dr. Hormones does sound like a trans superhero.
Right? Yeah.
And you have a podcast, the Door Guy podcast.
The Door Guy podcast.
which
It's me, Feng Chao, and Abby Roberge, and we just talk with mostly other door guys or past door guys, but also just sometimes comics who are just around the store a lot. And we just tell like comedy store stories and about like times we were fucked up at the store and like times we got pussy or whatever at the store.
What a
did
great
drugs.
podcast.
It's just us talking shit about working at the comedy store mostly, and we got to get you on.
got to be on there. I got
Hell yeah.
I got some stories to tell.
Yeah, dude.
Oh man.
Oh man,
What a
I swear.
time.
I think when you were not sober, nobody got more pussy than Jay Light. When Jay Light was an alcoholic, Jay Light smashed more than anybody.
It was pretty impressive.
It was. It would be like just working back door. You just walk. Me and Frank would walk by, and you'd just be making out with like a different chick. We're like, doesn't he make out with another chick earlier? It's like, hey, that's how Jay Light rolled.
Well, if you want to hear more about that, listen to me on the Door Guy podcast whenever that happens.
Coming hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
We'll figure it out. We'll hash it out off the air. You can listen to my podcast, which you're doing right now. And if you like it, you should tell people about it and join the Facebook group. It's right at the top of the show notes. And you can follow me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram. JLightComedy.com for show dates. I'm going to be in Edinburgh for the Fringe Festival.
Oh, yeah, that's dope.
Whole month of August. So if you're in Scotland, come check it out. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And I get to do an hour every night for like 25 nights. So it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, man, congrats. That's going to be crazy dope.
Thanks, buddy. You know what else is crazy dope, though? This podcast. You're a great guest.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on, dude. This has been Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change.